Somewhere in America tonight, three men are arguing about this across a kitchen table with a deer hanging in the garage. That argument has been running for 100 years, in deer camps, at gun counters, in truck cabs at 4 in the morning. And almost nobody in it is asking the right question. They ask which one is stronger, flatter, which one hits harder. Every one of those questions has an answer, and every one of those answers stops mattering the second you are actually standing behind the rifle. The real question is harder, and nobody puts it on a thumbnail. Which one of these three is worth living with for the next 10 or 20 years? By the end of this, you will know which one fits the way you actually hunt, and you will know which one takes the title in 2026, and exactly why it earned it. I'm Hank Mercer, and this is GunRank. 6 things decide this, and they get read out loud before a single cartridge is touched, so you can argue with the scoring instead of the conclusion. How they perform at the distances Americans actually shoot, 25%. What bullets you can actually put in them, 20. How well you can shoot them, 15. How practical the rifles are, 15. What it costs to get good and stay good, 15. And how much game they cover, 10. No mystery waiting at the end. If you would move those numbers, say which one and why, because that is a real argument. Now meet the 3, because they are not 3 versions of the same idea. They have personalities, and those personalities came from 3 completely different problems. The 30-06 is the generalist, 1906, built for soldiers, and it went to 2 world wars in the hands of men who came home and took the same cartridge into the deer woods. It was never designed to be excellent at one thing. It was designed to be adequate at everything, which is a harder engineering problem than it sounds. The 270 is the specialist, 1925. Winchester took a case from that same family, squeezed the neck down to hold a narrower bullet, and chased one thing: speed. Flat trajectory, across open country, where you cannot walk closer, and you cannot know the range. The 308 is the pragmatist. 1952, born out of military work, to do most of what the old cartridge did, in a shorter package. Less brass, less powder, less rifle. 3 answers to 3 different questions, and for 100 years we have been grading them on a test none of them signed up for. Round 1, distance. Take the published velocities and put a good hunting bullet in each one. 0 at 200 yards. Then look at 300, which is farther than most Americans have ever shot at an animal and lied about it. The fast 130 out of a 270 and a heavy 180 out of a 308 are separated by roughly the width of your hand. Not your arm, your hand. So what does that mean when you are standing behind the rifle? It means at every distance where the overwhelming majority of American game is taken, the trajectory argument is over before it starts. Your wind call is bigger than the gap. Your heartbeat is bigger than the gap. 100 years of arguing, and round 1 is a draw, which should make you suspicious, because something obviously does separate them out there. It is just not the thing on the box. Round 2, and this is where the whole subject cracks open. A hunting bullet does not kill by arriving. It kills by opening. It expands to several times its width, tears a wide wound channel, and dumps its energy inside the animal. A bullet that does not open drills a clean caliber-sized hole, and the animal runs off to die slowly. And every honest hunter listening has a story about that. So the entire question becomes, will this bullet open when it gets there? And here is the part that quietly rearranges everything. There is no universal number. You have heard that a bullet needs about 2,000 feet per second at impact to expand. That figure gets repeated, as if it were physics. It is not physics. It is a rule of thumb that got passed hunter to hunter for 50 years, and no standards body ever published it. Ask the people who actually build the bullets and you get different answers, because they built different bullets. Barnes says on their own site that most of their long-range copper bullets expand down to around 1,600 feet per second in their water tank testing. Other bullets in the same copper family are given a higher number. Traditional lead core bullets vary by design, by jacket thickness, by whether the core is bonded to the jacket. So what does that mean behind the rifle? It means the thing that decides whether your shot is clean at 400 yards is not the word stamped on the barrel. It is the $20 of engineering sitting in the case. Read that again in your head. A modern bonded or monolithic bullet, leaving the slowest of these three cartridges, can still be opening properly at a distance, where a 1970s cup and core from the fastest one has already stopped working. That is not a small correction. That is the collapse of the oldest argument in this fight. The 270 crowd has spent 90 years saying speed keeps the bullet working farther out, and they were right. In 1955, when everybody was shooting the same soft lead bullet, and velocity was the only variable anyone could change. It has not been the only variable for a long time, and the scale just tipped, hard, toward whichever cartridge gives you the best bullets on the shelf. Which brings us to round 3, and the 270s. One real limitation, not the one you have heard. You have probably been told the 270 cannot shoot bullets heavier than 150 grains. That is not quite right, and the imprecision hides something more interesting. There is a standardized 160 grain load for it. Weight was never the actual wall. Length is. A barrel stabilizes a bullet by spinning it, and what a given twist rate can stabilize depends on how long the bullet is, not how much it weighs. Modern high ballistic coefficient bullets are long, sleek, drawn out, needle-nosed, and they need a faster twist to hold their nose forward in flight. The 270 has been built around a 1 in 10 twist since 1925. That was a completely correct decision for the bullets that existed then, and it works beautifully for the bullets most people still hunt with today. And the industry told on itself about where the wall is. In 2021, Winchester and Browning introduced the 6.8 Western, same bullet diameter as the 270, bullets from 165 to 175 grains, which are long, and the rifles come with a 1 in 8 or a 1 in 7.5 twist. Nobody has to guess what that proves. Building long, heavy bullets in that diameter required a faster twist than the 270 has ever used. That is engineering, plainly stated by the specifications. So what does it mean for you? It means the 270 is not obsolete, and it is not crippled. It means the 270 is finished growing. Whatever the bullet makers invent in the next 15 years, most of it will be long, and your barrel will not spin it. The other two have room to receive gifts. The 270 does not. And the scale tips again, away from the specialist. There is a fourth cartridge that belongs in this conversation for exactly 45 seconds, and then it goes back in the drawer. The 280 Remington, 1957. Same family, a bullet diameter between the other two, and on paper, it splits the difference almost perfectly. Flat like the 270, heavy like the .6. Remington renamed it the 7mm Express in 1979. To boost sales, people confused it with the 7mm Magnum, and the name went back in 1981. It never recovered. Today, it survives on a thin shelf of factory loads and the loyalty of people who found it by accident. It is a reminder worth 45 seconds. A cartridge does not need to be beaten to lose. It only needs to be forgotten by the people who stock the shelves. Now back to the 3 you came for. Round 4. What it costs to become dangerous with the thing. Here is where a lot of comparisons quietly cheat, because this part is not about the cartridge at all. It is about the 12 months before the season. Put all 3 in the same 8-pound rifle. The 30-06 kicks roughly a fifth harder than the other two. That does not sound like much on paper, and it is not on paper. It is not paper that flinches. Recoil does not build a flinch in one shot. It builds one across a few hundred shots, which is exactly how many you need to fire to be genuinely good with a rifle, and it is why the last 3 rounds of a range session are always worse than the first 3. Then price. .308 is generally the cheapest and the most abundant of the 3, because it is loaded by more companies, in more bullet weights, for more rifles, and it is the one with the deepest supply of serious match-grade ammunition on Earth. So what does that mean behind the rifle? It means the cheaper cartridge buys you more trigger time for the same money, and trigger time is the only thing on this entire list that has ever actually improved anybody's shooting. The scale tips a third time, and it tips toward the pragmatist. Round 5, and it is short, because the answer is visible on any gun rack in the country. The 308 fits a short action. That is roughly half an inch less receiver, a few ounces less rifle, and a slightly stiffer platform. It is chambered by nearly every maker alive, in bolt guns, in semi-autos, in compact rifles built for smaller shooters. The 30-06 needs a long action, and it is everywhere too, just heavier. The 270 is almost exclusively a bolt-action cartridge, which is fine unless the rifle you want does not come that way. And now the last round, which is the one that swings the scale back the other way, hard. Versatility. Look at what these three are actually standardized to shoot. The 30-06 spans, from a 110-grain bullet up to 220. Coyotes to the biggest animals on the continent, out of one chamber. The 308 is standardized from 110 up to 200. The 270 runs from 100 to 160. And here is the part almost nobody says out loud. The 308 is not 100 grains behind the .06. It is one step behind, 20 grains. At the 200 grain mark, the published velocity difference between them is about 100 feet per second. The gap everyone imagines is a canyon. Measured, it is a curb. But be honest about the other half of that. On paper, the .06's range is wider, and paper is not a shelf. Walk a counter and count the boxes. The 220 grain .06 load that wins the internet argument is not what fills the shelf, and it has not been for a long time. The shelf, for all three, is 130 to 180. So what does that mean? It means the 30-06's famous headroom is real, and it is mostly theoretical for the way almost everyone hunts. Now the scorecard, with the weights we read out at the start. Distance performance, 25%. Draw. Nobody separates inside real hunting range, and pretending otherwise is how people get sold rifles. Bullet selection, 20%. 30-06, narrowly. It has the widest standardized spread and the twist to spin long modern bullets, with the 308 close behind. Shootability, 15. 308, least recoil of the three in the same rifle. Rifle practicality, 15. 308. Short action, lightest rifles, chambered in the widest variety of platforms. Cost of competence, 15. 308. Cheapest and deepest supply, which turns into practice. Game coverage, 10. 30-06. From varmints to the largest animals in North America, no argument. 3 crowns, and every one of them is honest. The 270 takes the open country crown. Nothing here is more pleasant to carry up a mountain and shoot flat across a canyon at a deer or an antelope. The 30-06 takes the versatility crown, and it is not close. One rifle, one chamber, everything that walks this continent. The 308 takes the practical ownership crown, the cheapest to master, the easiest to carry, the widest choice of rifles. Now the actual question in the title, which is a different question, and a harder one. If you could own only one of these in 2026, which one wins? If you hunt open country, if your shots come across sagebrush and canyons, and your longest realistic distance is genuinely past 300 yards, take the 270. It was built for exactly your life, and it is still superb at it. Just understand you are buying a finished design, and buy good bullets. If your hunting includes moose, elk, big coastal bears, or you want a single rifle that will never once make you wish you had brought something else, take the 30-06. It is the only one here with no ceiling worth naming, and if you shoot it enough to be good with it, nothing on this list beats it. And if you are like most people watching this, and your hunting is deer and hogs and the occasional elk trip, and your rifle needs to be light enough to carry all day and cheap enough to shoot on a Saturday, take the 308. Which one wins overall for 2026? The 308 Winchester. And here is the logic, in one line. Versatility you never use is not versatility. It is an unspent argument. The 30-06's advantage lives in territory almost no American hunter enters, with bullets almost nobody stalks. The 308's advantages get cashed every single year. In what the rifle weighs on your shoulder, in what the box costs, in how many rounds you actually fire before opening day, and in how steady you are on the fourth shot instead of the first. The bullet revolution finished the job. Once construction, not velocity, became the thing that decides whether a bullet opens at distance, the case that hands you the most practice and the best rifles stopped being the compromise and started being the correct answer. And it is a close win, not a blowout. Move the weights and it flips. If game coverage matters more to you than practice cost, the .6 takes it, and you are not wrong. Say which weight you would change and defend it, because that is the only version of this argument worth having. One thing was deliberately left out. No 6.5 Creedmoor, no 708, no Magnums. This was the 3 in the title and nothing else, and if that was the wrong scope, say so. 100 years of this argument, and none of these 3 ever lost an animal. People did. People who bought the cartridge that won the debate, instead of the one they would shoot 200 times before November. If I could own one rifle in 2026, and I had to answer honestly instead of romantically, it would wear 308 on the barrel. Everything from this episode, every criterion, every weight, and a full page listing the arguments against our own conclusion, is in the free blueprint below. No sponsors here, no affiliate links, no places to buy anything, and there never will be. The best cartridge was never the one that won the most arguments at the kitchen table. It was the one that made the person holding it certain, in the single second that ever counted.